Hello there. Good afternoon. We're going to get started in just a moment. Hi there, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. We're just going to give everyone a moment to hop on the Zoom, but feel free to say hello in the chat box. And if you would like, make sure to change from host and panelist to everyone so everyone can see what you're saying, but hello there. And this PowerPoint, as well as some additional materials, will be available following today's webinar. So more to come on that. Thank you and welcome. I love to see so many people joining today. We'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Katie Johnson. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the program manager for AAPD's internship program. Brief visual description, I am a white person with buzzed brown hair. Today I'm wearing a tan colored top and some gold hoop earrings, and I'm seated in my home in Washington, D.C. And I'm really, really excited to chat with you all more about our summer internship program. It's great to see so much interest in this program. And today we're gonna share more about what the program is, what to expect from our application that's open now, as well as hear from some of our alumni who I'm excited for you all to meet. So a few housekeeping items before we get started. This information session is being recorded, and the recording will be available on our webpage following this event. Usually takes a few business days in order to get up on our website, since we do get it post-captioned. We do have live captioning available during this webinar. You can access it by clicking the CC button at the bottom of your screen. We also have an ASL interpreter here today. The ASL interpreter should be visible for you now. If you have any issues throughout the webinar where you can't see the interpreter, please let us know. And then lastly, there's going to be some time for questions and answers at the end of the webinar. We have the Q&A box enabled, so if you want to drop your question in as we're going through this, that'll be a good way for us to keep track of what questions you have to make sure they get answered. Wonderful. So we will go ahead and get started. So again, our agenda for today, on this slide, I have a photo of our 2023 summer intern cohort who are standing outside for a picture in a courtyard. And we're really excited that during today's webinar, we're going to be recruiting for the 2024 cohort. So this could be you here pictured in Washington, D.C., or one of our remote interns. So what we're going to cover in the webinar today, our agenda, we're going to go over briefly what the summer internship program is like, some of the key elements that make our program what it is. We're going to go over the application process and timeline. So when our application is due, what components you need to submit and how to submit. And then we'll save most of our time to hear from 3 of our alumni. So you can learn more about what their experience was like, from people who've actually been through the program. And then at the very end, we'll have that Q&A and our wrap up. So please, again, use our Q&A feature to submit your questions. So for the 2024 summer internship program, we have a hybrid program. We've had a hybrid program for the last 2 summers, so this will be our 3rd summer as a hybrid program. And that means that some of our interns join in person in Washington, D.C., and then some join remotely. Last year and our plan for this year is 20 interns, with 8 of them joining remotely and 12 of them joining in person. The internship is a 10-week long program, and it's a paid internship opportunity. You'd be working full-time, so that's 32 hours a week, and that's from Monday to Thursday. And then on Fridays, you're actually with the rest of your cohort with our Disability Advocacy Certificate Program, which I'll talk more about on the next slide. And for your internships, we partner with a variety of different organizations to place you in your internships. So you're not doing your internship at AAPD, you're actually going out and will be placed in either a congressional office, a federal agency, a nonprofit, or a for-profit organization. On our website, and then in the link in the slides, which hopefully we can get dropped into the chat box, is a list of some of our past placement sites. So, for our congressional placements, it's good to know that, we've placed people in congressional offices on both sides of the aisle. You can express your interest in getting to be on the Hill and being a Hill intern. But knowing that AAPD is a nonpartisan organization, we can't guarantee you'll be in a specific office. A lot of times it's based on the state you live in or the state where you go to school. Some of our federal placements, we've had people at the National Council on Disability. You'll hear from someone who was at the Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy, a wide variety of federal partners. And then for nonprofits, we have a wide variety of nonprofit partners. Some of them, are disability focused organizations like the National Disability Rights Network. Some of them might be based on a particular interest area, like we had someone from the Human Rights Campaign. And then today you'll hear from someone who was at the Center for American Progress, their disability justice initiative. And then for our for-profit, we have a few for-profit placements. We've partnered with a number of different organizations like Centene, Elevance Health, American Airlines. So the way the placement process works is sorry, I see a question in the chat, so I'm just going to pause. There is an ASL interpreter. So let's make sure that you can get access to that. April, will you be able to make sure that the interpreter can be seen or spotlighted?
Yes, 1 second, please. Okay, just let me add a second spotlight on you. And both of y'all should be showing now.
And I just want to confirm that you're able to see the interpreter now. Okay, I'm gonna let April, if you're able to help troubleshoot on mobile, you might have to select a different view. Just checking in to see if that's any better.
I'm going to try to join from my phone as well real quick, just so I can troubleshoot it.
Thanks for everyone's patience. We just want to make sure that everybody can access what's there. So we also have our cart available, and someone from our team is going to follow up with you directly to make sure you're able to access it. The meeting is recorded, so we'll make sure you get a copy of the recording to miss any parts in the meantime, but I'm going to keep us going. Alrighty. And so for our internship placements, you express your interests and preferences related to the type of placement site, or even the exact placement that you would love in a dream world to get to work with. And then AAPD takes that information and your preferences and tries to match you with your placement site. And then once it looks like we have a good match, we met a bunch of different preferences and needs related to the placement type, related to the format. Then we'll set up a time for you to meet with the potential placement before it's confirmed. So we really try to find internships that match your interests, and we can talk more about that in the Q&A. So I want to talk a little bit about the Disability Advocacy Certificate Program. So this is the class that all of our AAPD interns participate in during their internship summer. The class is focused on advocacy, especially around storytelling, how to tell your own story as a form of advocacy, and to think about advocacy not just in traditional ways, like policy advocacy or having a protest, but all of the ways that disabled people create change in their communities. It includes weekly speakers who are members of the disability community and ongoing class discussions. I have two photos on the slide. One is from a breakout room discussion, some interns sitting around a conference table. And then the second photo on the slides in the photo is the Disability in American History. It was a history presentation and a bunch of interns sitting around a conference table. So it's a very discussion-based, an opportunity to learn from your peers and from others in the disability community about disability advocacy. And then as far as our assignments, so there are assignments that come with the course. Last year, this past summer, some of those assignments included a policy memo where you got to learn about a disability issue and a policy solution. And then as a group, they wrote a policy memo around that issue. You get to meet with an elected official. So they took their issue and they met with someone, an elected representative, and talked about and educated their member about the issue that they had done in their policy memo. And then there was also a final presentation where they created an advocacy plan as a group and then presented that plan to their peers and to others in AAPD. Some other aspects of our program are the mentorship component. All of our interns are paired into one-to-one mentorships with community leaders that match their interests for mentors. And then we also have ongoing community events throughout the summer. So we have weekly virtual events that interns get to take a part in. They're more social in nature and about topics that interest them. Some examples include like disability and dating. We brought in some YouTube famous disability couple or interabled couple to talk about dating and disability. We've also last summer talked about abolition and disability justice. So it really depends on what the cohort's interested in. And there's a variety of networking opportunities. I have some photos on the slide. The top left photo is actually from our 20th anniversary event that happened 2 years ago, happened last year. Yeah, last year. With a few of our interns. They're signing on the rooftop overlooking the Capitol. The second photo is actually one of our mentor-mentee pairs from this past summer. They met in person outside of Howard Theater. And then the bottom photo is a group of interns when they went to tour the White House. And they're standing in front of a photo in the White House of the signing of the ADA. So there's a lot of different events that we have throughout the summer and some networking opportunities for you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the application. And we'll have a chance to dig into some of those program elements with our interns that are here, our intern alum that are here. But I want to review kind of what is included in the application, the different components. So there's the general information section. There's a section where you put in your resume and your references, your placement preferences. There's 3 essay questions and the demographics. So I'm just going to work through each of those in turn. So for the general information section, this is where you share, your contact information. You answer 2 questions related to eligibility. So I want to talk a little bit about who's eligible to apply to this program. So this is a program that's for college students or recent graduates with disabilities. And so first you have to identify as a person with a disability. This does not mean that you need to have paperwork or fill or submit something. It just means that you do identify as a person with a disability. And then the second component, that you're currently enrolled or a recent graduate of a US-based institution. So that means that you're in a post-secondary program or that you graduated in the last 5 years. And so you'll get asked some questions in the application that help show that you are a person with disability who is a current student or a recent graduate of a US-based program. It could be a college, that could be a technical school, it could be a post-secondary transition program. It's a pretty broad range. So if you have any questions about your specific eligibility, please do reach out. Next, you'll submit a copy of your resume. It helps if that is in an accessible format. Some of our reviewers need accessible formats to read your resume, so please double check that they're accessible and easy to read through, showing a bit about your experiences. And then next are the references. So for the summer of 2024, we have a section for you to submit 2 references. One of those references, at least one, needs to be a professional reference. So that might be someone who is a professor, a former employer, someone that worked with you in a leadership when you were in a leadership role. And then one can be personal. So that could be like a coach or a mentor, a neighbor or a counselor. But we're only asking for their contact information. We are not asking for letters of recommendation. Sections 3 and 4. So we have our internship preferences. So this is where you share if you want to be in a congressional, federal, nonprofit, or for-profit organization. You also share if you prefer to be in-person, remote, or flexible. So again, this is a hybrid program. So this is, at the time that you applied, would you rather come in person to spend the summer in Washington, D.C.? Would you rather not come to DC and join remotely? Or are you flexible and it could go either way? The bulk of the application are the 3 essay questions. The essay questions are listed in the copy of the application. I just wanted to highlight some of what you should be thinking about when you're writing your essay responses. In your responses, they help us understand you as a leader. Please be as specific as you can, sharing about your experience or your interests. We're really looking for people who want to develop and grow their leadership and advocacy skills. So the more you can tell us about how you understand yourself as a leader, the better it is to rate your application. We want details and specifics, and we ask that you answer the questions fully. And then the last section is our demographics section. This is optional. It just helps us ensure that we're consistently having a diverse internship cohort that's diverse in a lot of ways. So we'll ask some information if you'd like to share about your disability, your sexual orientation, gender and pronouns, your veteran status, your race, your age, and your religion. And these are all open-ended questions, so you can self-identify however you would like, and they're optional. And then the last thing is our timeline. So the application is due on October 19th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. The application is submitted through an online portal. So you'll see a link on our website to a Google Doc, which has all of the questions that you'll need to submit. And once you've gathered all your information, written your essays, found your references, you'll click on the link to the online portal. It's through a system called SurveyMonkey, and you'll fill it out there by October 19th at 5 p.m. After we get all of your applications, we will get to work on reviewing them. The application review will happen in early November, late October, early November. And then we will begin conducting interviews starting in November, all the way through January. Everybody should expect to hear back from us either way by the end of January 2020. Okay, I saw the chat box had so much going on and our Q&A is filled with questions, which I love to see, and we will get to them. But before we do, I'm excited to welcome some of our alumni who are here to tell you more about their experience and kind of give life to some of the things I was talking about. So we have 3 alumni joining us. First is Jessica Lopez, who was a remote intern this past summer. And she did her internship at the Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy. Next, we have Christina Stafford, who is also a 2023 intern. She did her internship in person in Washington, D.C. at the Center for American Progress. And then last, we have Zandy Wong, who was a 2022 in-person intern with the Office of Representative Katie Porter. So I'm so glad that each of you are here to share more about your experience with the internship program. Thanks for taking the time to talk with some prospective applicants. If you could start by introducing yourself, sharing your names and pronouns, a brief visual description, and then your internship year and placement site and what you're up to now. I'll start with Jessica.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Jessica Lopez speaking. I am a young Hispanic woman with straight brown hair, and I'm wearing a black top, and I have kind of like a blurry Zoom background behind me. Yeah, so I was a remote intern this summer, 2023, and I was placed in the Department of Labor, Office of Disability Employment Policy, and that was a really incredible, opportunity for me. I was remote, 100% remote. So everything that I did was 100% from home. I actually live in San Diego, and the Department of Labor is based in DC, but I was able to fully participate remotely. And the internship process was an incredibly life-changing opportunity for me. I got to meet a lot of people within the panel. I am going to be transferring to Arizona State, and so I am in my last semester at community college. And over the last semester, I've been kind of working on my disability advocacy within my college. I've had the opportunity to work with 2 AAPD alumni over this summer for the last semester of my advocacy in college. So we're currently working together on some events for my college. So it's been a great opportunity so far. And it's great to still have that relationship too.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I will pass it to Christina to introduce herself.
Can you hear me?
We can now. Or not anymore. No.
All right. How about now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Christina Stafford. I use she, her pronouns. A brief visual description of me. I am a Black African-American woman with long faux locks in and glasses and a black t-shirt on. My internship year was just like Jessica, just this past summer in 2023. And I was working at the Center for American Progress, which is a think tank in DC. And I was completely in person for the entire summer. And so what I'm up to now, I'm a junior at Elon University, and my majors are English and political science. And I'm also conducting research right now that I hope to be publishing in the next 2 years. So very excited for that.
Wonderful. And then Zandy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zandy Wong. My pronouns are she, her. Visual description of me: I am an Asian American woman with short black hair. I am wearing a navy blue collared shirt, and I'm in front of a white background. I was part of the summer 2022 internship cohort. I was working in person in U.S. Representative Katie Porter's DC office. And I am now currently a senior at Johns Hopkins University, where I study public health. I'm still involved with disability advocacy efforts at the state and federal level, working on accessibility in general. And I'm looking forward to share more about my experiences.
Great, thank you all. This is Katie. So we'll get started. If you could just share a little bit about what the day-to-day is like with the internship that you completed. What tasks were you working on? what a typical day look like. And I'll have Christina start.
Absolutely. So for me, my internship was really focused on a lot of research. We at Center for American Progress, the thing that they work on the most is putting out publications about current issues for both advocacy groups and for people who are affected by the issues, to have a better understanding of what's happening in the field. So a lot of my day-to-day looked like going into the office. We had kind of a set time that we had to be in by, and then we would be either doing some set research for a project that we were working on at the time, or by the end of the project, for most of the people at that site, we did kind of like a final project. So we were also working on one large research project that we got to submit for publication by the end of our internship. So a lot of it was just like either sitting and doing the research, or also going to meetings, meeting a lot of people in the community, seeing what was happening at the time. It was really exciting time to be in DC as well. And I got to meet so many different advocates in DC and on Zoom. So it was really a great opportunity there. Yeah.
Thank you. And then Zandy?
So my day-to-day, like at my internship for U.S. Representative Katie Porter, was a little more on the formal side. I went in usually 4 days a week, dressed in completely full suit and everything, which is exciting for me, but really bad in DC humidity. Some of the daily tasks that I did, I sorted the mail for them. I answered a lot of constituents' emails, letters that came in for them. I was the main call center person, so anytime a constituent called in, I was there during the summer when Roe versus Wade fell, so we had a lot of calls related to that. And whenever Katie Porter spoke, we had a billion calls telling people to elect her president. So it was just a lot of being the I guess the connective tissue between the public and what we know as U.S. Representative Katie Porter. And she's a very nice in person. It was really nice to meet her. Some of the big legislative tasks I worked on, besides kind of like clerical tasks, was that I wrote policy memos talking about issues that I was passionate about, digital accessibility, healthcare, those kinds of things. Some other big highlights was including recommending 2 pieces of Title IX legislation to U.S. Representative Katie Porter to co-sponsor. And one unique opportunity that I had, which was mainly through a coffee chat, was that I was able to, with the support of the legislative team, to write federal policy related to digital accessibility, which was really exciting. And another opportunity for Capitol Hill interns is that, once you get in, it's very easy to go to all events related to the Capitol Hill. So especially during Disability Pride Month, there's a ton going on. So I was able to meet a lot of people and get a lot of free food, which is always good as a very broke DC intern. Is there anything else? Okay, I think that's it. But yeah, happy to chat more.
That was great, Sandy. Thank you. And yes, taking advantage of the free food is definitely a DC intern experience. But Jessica, I know you did your internship remotely, and I know there are people on the line who definitely want to hear what that experience is like completing a remote internship. Could you tell us about your day-to-day?
Yeah. My day was usually, it was pretty low key. It was not like super high pressure. I was able to kind of log on, at a set time every day. And my manager was super flexible. I live on the West Coast and they're on the East Coast, so he was super flexible about allowing me to kind of start at a time that worked for me, and not like at 6 a.m. in the morning, like when everybody else is like already, at noon. So I think that was a really great benefit, that they gave me that flexibility and understanding of, I'm on a different time zone. In terms of like my day-to-day work, I did a lot of research. I did some research on kind of like transportation benefits for people who are in the workforce. I also did a lot of research on trying to keep tabs on different policy events or considerations that are happening around, DC, any sort of laws that are being passed, and forwarding that to our team, and really making sure that there's kind of like a brief every week of, what's going on within the disability community, so that we know how we can support people who are in the workforce who live with disabilities. Some of the other stuff that I did was I hosted like kind of like an all hands like event towards the end of the semester or under the summer, And that was a lot of fun because I got to meet other interns who were at the Department of Labor, and we kind of did like a trivia event. And I really had a really fortunate opportunity to be able to do some work that went directly to the Assistant Secretary of the Office of Disability Employment Policy. So some of the work that I did went directly to her office. So I did have, some of that impact going, putting things, all the way up to our leaders. So it was a great experience. So.
Thank you all. That sounds like great work that you got to work on, and I appreciate you sharing some of the specifics on some of the topics. I think a lot of times people don't know exactly what kind of internships they might have, so that's really helpful. And I'm wondering, as we're launching our third hybrid program, I'm wondering if you could share about what your experience was like as a remote or an in-person intern, and maybe how you connected with the whole cohort, so that people are going to have to share their preferences. And it'd be great to hear from you about what your experience was. Zandy, would you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. For the 2022 internship program, I'm not quite sure what it was for 2023, but like I would say 70% of us were in person and other 30% of us were virtual. We lived in the dorms at GW. It was my first time really being off my college campus, but living still by myself. So there's a lot of learning how to cook, and a lot of other AAPD interns were very helpful in helping me learn where the best grocery stores were. And hint, hint, there's not many in DC. But if you are going to go to one at Trader Joe's off Pennsylvania Avenue, I think. I'm not really sure right now. But the in-person part is really cool because not only are you working in DC, you're really part of the community in DC. I think Christina and Jessica might talk about later, but we were able to go to events like the Congressional Baseball Game, DC Pride, and it was just really exciting being a part of the DC community. I think that's a gist. So yeah, I had a great time.
Thanks so much, Sandy. Christina, anything you would add from an in-person perspective before we pass to Jessica?
Yeah, I think Zandy covered it really well. A lot of it was being able, as an in-person intern, to experience the culture of DC, and to experience like how to navigate the city as like completely a new city. It was also though being able to interact with all my other cohorts, both in person and remote. We were able to interact through both our certificate program that we had every Friday. We would basically be able to see each other for sure once a week to kind of connect and see how everyone was doing, both in person and remote. And then we would also have, community events every week where we would get to connect. And then we would also just hang out and both try to make sure that we had like options for in person and remote to connect that way as well. And it was a really great opportunity to get to know everyone there.
Thank you. And then let's pass it to Jessica. What was it like from a remote perspective?
Yeah, it was a really incredible experience. I was able to fly out to DC for the first week of orientation, and I had the full, it was the all 9 yards. Like we really got, the opportunity to get to know each other. I got to navigate the system, go on the metro, see the Microsoft building, and then I was just like really sad to go home because I'm like, this is an incredible experience and I want to like stay here. I love the city, and I actually want to move to DC now because of how incredible that, city is. But like once I went home, I never felt like I was missing out on anything. The AAPD internship team, they were really accommodating for us. They made sure that we had everything that we needed to be included. We had like Tuesday night social gatherings where we could just join and talk about whatever. We were able to join and do everything with our certificate program on Friday over remote. Sometimes we were broken up into groups, and the Zoom people were able to still participate in each of those groups. And that was really incredible for me. And I think our cohort, we have built a bond in our first week in DC. And so they were like, we really want to include our interns. So they were like, maybe we can do like Zoom calls over the weekend, or, maybe we can do Zoom calls as we visit these different places. And they did that. And I think that was really incredible to see, like, not only the AAPD team include remote interns, but also our in-person cohort also included us as well. So it was an incredible experience just because I never felt like I was missing out. I really felt like I was a part of, the cohort. And I wasn't really like isolated with the other remote interns. I had, the connection to everybody within our cohort. So it was a great experience.
This is Katie. I'm so glad to hear that. I know AAPD works really hard to build a really meaningful hybrid opportunity, even as a lot of hybrid opportunities are maybe going away. It's really important for us in the disability community to continue to offer remote offerings, but we're trying to do so in ways that are really engaging and that allow connection between the cohorts. So I'm glad to hear that that was some of your experience this past summer. And so to wrap up, I wanted to ask one last question and then make sure we have lots of time for Q&A. But our AAPD Summer Internship Program, is more than just the internship at the placement site itself. It obviously includes our Disability Advocacy Certificate Program on Fridays, the one-to-one mentoring, and our virtual community events, which were just mentioned. Could you talk about your favorite or one of your favorite experiences from the summer that was related to some of these other elements? Christina, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, one of the greatest kind of opportunities was definitely towards the weekend. Everyone was able to kind of find ways to come together and connect. I remember during the first week or so there, we all met up at a food hall that was right by all of the dorm and living areas. And then we even like connected a Zoom call so that we could like talk with all the remote interns there. And it was like community events like that were just really relaxed. It was either just like getting a meal or I know towards the middle to end of June, we went all to Pride together, and it was really a great experience to have. All of those kind of things were just like little moments that added up into like a really great community that really made a difference.
Thank you. What about you, Zandy?
One of the biggest aspects of the internship program that really has been actually really helpful for me for finding a job for next year has been the mentorship piece. I was matched with Meryl Friedman, who is a disability policy officer, sort of a title, at Elevance Health, which used to be Anthem. It's a health insurance company. And she's helping them with emergency preparedness for helping people with disabilities and some other disability policy related projects. But at the time, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go into a career in policy or healthcare or even be a lawyer. So she was really important with me and helping me guide me toward a path that's going to be good for me. And so I met with her almost every week. I still would meet with her like once a month, even after the internship program. I'm actually meeting with her next week to discuss like what options I should look at for a job next year. And she's written me a lot of recommendations, and we've met a few times in person in DC because I'm pretty close by in Baltimore. But it's always great to see her and know that I have her support. And she's been able to connect me to so many people else. Even like I think remember it was one time. Elevance is a huge company, but we literally just had a coffee chat. She just brought 9 of her coworkers along. We all just had a coffee chat, and they loved the fact that I'm into cream puffs and figure skating. So, it sometimes you're often afraid to go into these big spaces because you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not qualified enough. I'm just a newbie here. But with her support, you feel confident enough to network with these people and take advantage of what the AAPD program has to offer.
Thank you so much, Zandy. And yeah, we hope to also, through some of the sessions, share, information with the cohort and learn from each other about what makes effective mentoring. So even what you were saying, like you like ice skating, like being able to connect, personally with someone as a full person and develop really meaningful relationships is one of the definite benefits of the program and its mentorship component. So I'll pass it to Jessica to share her thoughts.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about AAPD is how attentive they are to accommodations. So when I flew out to Washington, D.C., I need to bring a personal care attendant with me because of my disability. I use a wheelchair and I need some help with that. And so one of the first things that I noticed about AAPD that I love telling people about is when they gave us like the registration forms, they, needed like information, like where are we flying from? Do we want to stay in DC the whole time? All of those considerations. In those forms, they ask if you need to bring a PCA with you. And so I filled that out. And in that form, they asked like, for your personal care attendant's name, like information. And then they also asked if your personal care attendant also needs accommodation. I have never seen this anywhere in the world. Like, this did not happen. They don't think about like personal care attendants as possibly being disabled as well. So they thought about, super minute details such as, if my personal care attendant will need accommodations, what she would need, when we're there. Is there anything that they need as well? They were also super detailed about, what accommodations that I might need, whether it's like trying to learn how to, do transportation in DC, and kind of like any sort of accommodations that I needed while I was there to be comfortable. And I think that is really a testament to how critically thinking AAPD is, just because they're really thinking about all of those details that people might not think about when they are trying to support people with disabilities. And I think that was a really incredible experience to see that leadership from AAPD, because I am going to take that and tell everyone I know and say, this is how you need to be doing it. And while I was there, I think I did really enjoy being able to meet different people within, the disability community. We visited the Microsoft office on our first day, which is an incredible opportunity to see like a Microsoft office in DC. It was incredibly, it was really fancy. I'm just gonna say that. And it was such a, a great opportunity just to, kind of have that experience of DC and the other interns, and learn from leaders within the disability community that I have always looked up to, and have that ability to be like one-on-one and connect with them. So yeah, that was a great experience for that reason.
Thank you so much. So I am going to start us off on some Q&A and then ask our alumni to help out with some of the questions, just because I know we have a good number here. So I saw that there was a question about part-time internships. So I just wanted to say for our summer program, our interns work full-time internships unless we're in the event that it's needed for a disability accommodation. So we have made a disability accommodation to convert to part-time. That's on a case-by-case basis. And we encourage people to look into our fall internship program as well, which has full-time internships there. And so that's something that we definitely want to talk about on a case-by-case basis, since it will have impacts on other things, but it's definitely something that can be discussed as an accommodation. So thank you for asking that question. I had a question about if you're not already doing work related to disability advocacy, is this a good internship for you or not? Is this a good opportunity for someone to, I lost the question. I think it dropped down. Here we go. Is it a good opportunity for you to enter a space for disability advocacy, or is it really more for people with a lot of experience? And so the answer is that we are looking for a diverse group of interns in our cohort. Some people might have a lot of experience, some people might not, but that's okay. This is a great place to get to build your advocacy skills no matter where you are. Do any of our panelists want to comment on that and where they were in their advocacy journey? Maybe Christina, I see you're nodding.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I was definitely towards the beginning. I knew that I was interested in advocacy, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't really have a lot of the tools around me. I hadn't really interacted with a lot of people who were in an advocacy space. So for me, I was kind of coming in as complete beginner, but I was also able to interact with people in my cohort that had experience with it. So it was beneficial to us both, because while we were also all learning from the program, we were also learning from each other. And I think that's what made a huge difference from it.
Thank you so much. All right, I see a question about if the internships are usually about disability policy, or are they more of a typical internship experience? What about the STEM internship? I'm glad that you mentioned the STEM internship. I didn't go into that as much detail as I wanted to, so I'd like to talk about that first. So AAPD is open to anyone of any major. We pair people in internships based on their interests. So sometimes people's interests are in disability policy and advocacy, And, that is a part of our program through the certificate program, but some of our interns want to do disability policy at their placement site. And some of our interns want to do climate justice, or they want to work in business and learn about marketing. So it's really what you and your major want to do. As far as our STEM internship goes, we do have STEM opportunities at science, technology, engineering, and math. And there are always dedicated spots for STEM students in our program. We have a specific STEM internship that places interns in a federal agency who are studying science, technology, engineering, or math. A lot of times that intern has been like at the US Access Board, for example. This past year, our STEM intern was at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. But yes, open to all majors. Okay. Someone asked if there are opportunities open for people who are not disabled but are interested in practicing disability justice work. There are a lot of opportunities out there for people who are not disabled in the disability space, so we definitely encourage you to continue to get involved, but this opportunity is specific for disabled students. And one of the best parts about what we're doing here is learning about cross-disability solidarity and cross-disability pride. And so it's really important that everyone that applies to the program, and the only way you can apply is if you identify as a person with a disability. But yes, I encourage you to check out some of our partners who might have opportunities available. Okay, I'm just jumping around a little bit. So someone asked a question about DACA, which is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and if there is a difference in what you could participate or any limitations, or if we could follow up on email. Yes, we can follow up on email for any students who might have a DACA status. I'm also going to talk about international student status, which I know are different things. But US citizenship is not a requirement for AAPD's program. Some of our placement sites that we partner with do have US citizenship requirements. And so during the placement site process, we would need to, discuss and make sure that the appropriate match is made. All of our federal agencies, and I believe all of our congressional placements would require US citizenship. So you just might end up more in like a nonprofit that's, just so you know. And then the only thing that is required is that you have work authorization. So for international students, under an international student visa, if you are authorized to work while you're here, then you can do the internship here. We a lot of times have students that are doing CPT or OPT here. So we can talk more about international students and DACA students, and I encourage you to please email internships at AAPD. Talk more about that. Someone asked what's covered during orientation week. Would one of our alumni want to talk about what orientation week was like? Maybe Zandy or Jessica?
I mean, well, I'll talk about positive orientation week. We had a lot of great speakers come in, one of whom I'm still connected to. But the main benefit of it was really just getting your foot in the door of learning what it's like to live in DC for a week before they put you in a job. But as far as like the lessons itself, we had a headshot session that was really cool. So I still use that professional headshot on my LinkedIn profile, so that's really exciting. But the lessons include lessons about disability identity, disability history, disability advocacy. So if you were pretty new to the field like I was at the time, it was a really good immersion into that. And I think, I'm not sure, it's been a while, but we also did the profiles of encouragement during that time, which was a big promotional thing during Disability Pride Month in July as well. So yeah, it was really important in building community and getting to know the other interns and learning more about how to behave in a professional setting, whether that's to disclose they already knew we were disabled, but how to bring your disability into the workplace and ask for accommodations while understanding how, I guess, valuable it is to be disabled.
Thank you, Zandy. Anything you'll add, Jessica?
Yeah, I think orientation covered kind of everything. And we often did a lot of stuff before the internship program even started. We did kind of a book club, and we read a book and kind of discussed some of the stories that were in the book. We were able to get training around, you know, like transportation within DC, as well as like training like going across the country. So we had a connection with each other a little bit, like even before the internship even started. And I think that was really impactful, and it was a big surprise because I was like, I have book reading assignments that I have to do before the internship starts, and I'm like, but I really love this. It's really cool, and so you know, I did it, and it was not like a lot. I don't want to scare anybody. It's not like you have to read like 5 books. It's like you read a couple pages or you read a story, and then we kind of discuss that story. So it was a really great way of bonding. And then within, you know, the orientation week in DC, we kind of continued that kind of thread of, you know, the book club, as well as like disability history, disability policy, kind of like how to, you know, incorporate your story into how you advocate, as well as like how disability advocacy fits in sort of any role. It's not just within like legislative policy in DC. It also fits within the tech space, and it fits within, you know, schools, and it fits within etc. We had a great time to chat about a lot of fun things and make jokes as well, but we also talked about, you know, really impactful things as well. So it was really awesome. And I've always told everybody when I talk about this program, these are the smartest people in my cohort. They were the smartest people I've ever met, and it was so incredible to be able to talk about like real things, you know, with each other instead of just like, you know, superficial things. So we got to really get to know each other that way.
Thank you so much, Jessica. This is Katie. I saw a few questions about, is there a GPA requirement? There is not a GPA requirement to participate. I did want to highlight that we're looking for a diverse cohort, a cohort of people who bring a lot of different experiences. So we're not looking for you go to the best college or you have like a million things on your resume. I know someone else had asked a question somewhat similar about what experiences you bring. We're really looking for people who are, you know, passionate about improving the lives of people with disabilities, and eager to learn and grow. So things like GPA or what school you go to or the stuff on your resume is not really as important to us. We're looking to have people who are passionate and excited to grow. So I just wanted to highlight that about the GPA requirement. Okay. And then there was a question about advice to make a good candidate that's chosen by AAPD and what we're looking for. So yes, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who are leaning into growth, to growing their advocacy skills, their leadership skills, and that they're passionate about disability issues. And so the more that you can include that in your essay responses, the better. Someone asked a question about incorporating your career goals and your dream placement sites into your essay questions, or is there another space to share that information? So in twofold, in your application, you can definitely talk about what you're passionate about, what you want to do with your career, and how it relates to the internship program. That's really helpful for us when we're reading them to be like, oh, this is where they're headed. This is what their goals are. There's a question about a disability issue and then coming up with a solution for it. That's a great place to choose an issue that you're passionate about or that connects to your career interests. But then the second part to answer your question is after you're accepted into the program, you fill out those placement forms, the one that Jessica was kind of talking about at one point. And that's where you can really share in depth what placement site you want, what your preferences are related to your career goals. So if you know that now and want to include it, feel free to include it in your application, but there will always be time later. Okay, I'm going to keep scrolling. There is a question about transition programs and if there is a possibility that you could be placed at the current place that you're employed. I would love to follow up on that specifically over email, but I did just want to emphasize that this program is open to people in skills-based transition programs. And if you have any questions about whether or not your program counts towards the eligibility requirements, please do send us an email. All right, I see another question for one of our panelists. From this internship, how did you grow as a disability advocate? What did you learn? Who would like to go?
I can start.
Thanks.
So yeah, so as I mentioned before, when I started, I didn't really know a lot about the practical steps of advocacy, really how to do it, how to get involved. I knew that there was something that I was interested in, but I didn't know how to really practically put it into practice. And so for me, what I really gained out of it was actionable items, things that I could be doing right then, or things that I could follow up with in the next year. Things like creating my story and being able to learn how to share it, learning what types of strategies work best when you're asking for different things, and trying to fit which strategy works best. And then also a lot of it was just kind of learning from my fellow interns in the cohort to see what they were doing in their lives and on their campuses, to see, you know, what I could be doing in my life. And a lot of that was kind of just talking to a lot of the fellow cohorts, and then also talking with a lot of the speakers that we had to see what they had been doing, and how we could kind of apply that to wherever we were coming from.
Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
I think the internship gave a lot of credibility to my work as a disability advocate. Having the mark of an AAPD intern actually gives you a lot of credibility in the disability justice, disability rights movement, and they were able to connect us to so many people who have continued to support and advance my work. Since then, I've served as the youth advisor to U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy, and I've continued to work on policy efforts here in Maryland and in Virginia as well. And so it's been really exciting being a part of cool projects I wouldn't have known because, without the support of the AAPD community. So I've been really grateful for that.
Thank you so much. All right. I wanted to stress to people that a lot of our questions, thank you to Christine, who's been busy answering some of them. So if your question wasn't answered verbally, please check there. I'm going to try to get through one or two more. Someone asked about how to prepare for the interview. Does any of our alumni want to talk about how they prepared? Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, I was really nervous because I didn't know what to expect, and there's like so many placement options that you have. I think the best thing is to focus on what you care about. Like, they want to hear about who you are as a person. They want to know like what you're doing, what you care about. They want to know if you have certain passions. Maybe you don't want to be a disability rights advocate, but you are a disabled student who is making change in some other way. They want to know about that as well. They want to know about the intersection part of your identity, whether you identify with different parts of your identity. And I think the biggest thing is that I think it's just really important to share like what you're working on, whether you're in school, maybe you have some cool projects you want to share, or maybe you want to share like if you're in student government. Those are really great things to share with the AAPD when you're in that internship placement interview, and then also once they put you like with an interview with like for myself, I interviewed with the Department of Labor. Once I had that interview, I also, shared that as well. And for myself, I had a really great experience because that conversation, we like vibed because I was sharing my passions and they had the same passions. So just, I think, put yourself out there and share who you are, and they'll love you for who you are. So.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I could not have said it better. We're just at time, and I know that we didn't get to everyone's questions. So I just wanted to share where you can get more information, or if you need something that's maybe a little bit more specific to you, please email internships@aapd.com. I just threw that email into the chat box. Again, our application is due on Thursday, October 19th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm dropping the link to the Summer Internship Program webpage. This has all the information you need. It also has the link to our to the application itself and the application portal. And we will be putting the recording from today's events along with the slides and the transcript up on that webpage. So that's where I would check back in. I hope, I know we won't get to everyone, but thank you so much to each of our panelists for sharing about your experience, and for everyone for attending. We had such a great turnout, And we really look forward to reviewing your application. So reach out if you have any questions, and we're here. We're excited to read your material soon. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you all so much. Bye now.